This is a CBC News special presentation.
We've had your back, and now it's time to hear your voice.
More flexibility, more options, and more immediate help for all families.
We want to put the burden on those that are at the very, very top so we can invest in the solutions that people need.
We have to protect our values. We have to promote our language.
Our country is suffering. It needs leadership.
We believe in freedom, so we believe in freedom of choice.
If you have a choice,
Empower families.
Protecting the environment.
Pick a voice.
Compelling vision.
It is 6:30 p.m. Eastern in downtown Toronto, outside our CBC News election headquarters. For 36 days, you have heard the promises for your family, your community, your country, and your world. We are living through an unprecedented time, fighting a fourth wave of the pandemic. Now you get to make your choice about the future direction of Canada. The CBC News Decision Desk is watching ballots come in. Our team is here preparing to bring you all the results all night, no matter how long it could take. Across the country, from east to west, as we learn which party will form your next government. Canada, this is your choice. This is your vote. This is Election Night 2021. Hello, I'm Rosemary Barton, and welcome to Studio 42, our Canada Votes election headquarters. This is a historic night for Canada. Every election is, but this one comes during a pandemic, a test of the very strength of our democracy. And what happens over the next few hours will decide what a post-pandemic Canada will look like and shape the nation. Our team here with me will bring you the results and analysis each step of the way. We have you covered from coast to coast to coast with our reporters on the ground with the major...
Okay, let's go back to your favorite province, Manitoba. Brandon Souris. So there we go. Larry Maguire, he is the incumbent. As it's only one poll, but already a lead of 51. Staying in... No, let's go over to Alberta. Kelly McCauley, again, this is the incumbent, a lead of 54, just one poll reporting, but not very far away in Edmonton. When you have the riding of Edmonton Centre, this is one to keep an eye on because it's only a lead of 4, but Randy Boissonneau is taking the lead so far against James Cumming. They've gone back and forth. These two men used to train together. Their offices
of the vote share at this point in the evening nationally. Now, I want to do that with a big caveat, and that is that right now there's not a lot of results coming from Saskatchewan, coming from Manitoba, and coming from Alberta. So that means that Conservative number, which is right now at 32, is probably going to track upwards. In case Conservatives saw that and had a panic, your base and your heartland is still to come. Back at your board there with a state of play. I don't know what we're seeing yet and whether we can determine anything. So give us a sense of what you see.
Well, Rosie, you know how British Columbia always complained that we'd have the election call before the polls close out there? Welcome to the party, British Columbia. You're not the empty net goal of election 2021. Look, the Atlantic right now, we said the Liberals needed to be at 25. They're at 23, so they're down a little bit there, though some of these ridings are still a little bit too close to call, but the Conservatives are up at 9.
Some of what is playing out in Alberta, a response, perhaps, a reaction to the way the Alberta Conservative Premier managed the pandemic, certainly something the Liberal leader tried to take advantage of in the last week. Okay, we want to show you this board again because it starts to give you a picture of what might be needed for a majority government. You know already that the number is 170. You've got to get to that. The Liberals right now are leading in 121. All night, our CBC News Decision Desk ready to make a call. And Canada, your next government will be a Liberal government. Justin Trudeau will continue on as Prime Minister, gaining back enough seats to form government tonight. It's his third election win in a row. Canadians have chosen who they want to lead this country out of the pandemic after making what some thought was a political gamble here. Justin Trudeau will remain in power. But with many votes still to come, it is unclear whether or not the Liberals will be able to form a majority or a minority. Ready to bring you some more news right now. Our CBC News Decision Desk ready to make another call tonight. Canada, your next government will be a Liberal minority government. Justin Trudeau, as we already told you, will hang on as Prime Minister tonight. The Liberals remain in government, but after calling this snap election with the hopes of a different outcome, let's be honest, Justin Trudeau will not get enough seats to form a majority government. This is, as he said, Canada's choice to weigh in on the future of this country. You have done that, and you have told Justin Trudeau that you want him to have some checks and balances around him in the form of those other parties. And we are returning.
A lot of daylight left there and about 90 minutes to vote in BC. You're watching CTV Election 2021.
Canadians need to choose how we finish the fight against COVID-19.
Canada's economy is getting worse, not better. We need to get people back to work.
We are investing the most in healthcare.
The world is counting on Canada to do its part to tackle the climate emergency.
As a nation, we should not be submitted to laws which go against what we are.
Everybody must have the right to decide if they want to have the vaccine or not.
COVID-19 is my most important issue right now. We're looking to the next Prime Minister to lead us.
We've got to turn the focus, I believe, to creating jobs, creating wealth.
This is probably one of the most important elections ever. For me, the most important issue is childcare.
Voting for a party that protects the environment at all costs is extremely important.
The housing crisis is the most important issue to me because I can see it with my eyes.
Foreign policy is very important, you know, we are human beings.
I really hope they listen to the voices of the people.
This election is going to determine the path for the future of Canada.
CTV Election 2021. Here is Lisa Leclam.
And to CTV News election headquarters. In just under 30 minutes, polls close in more than half of this country: Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. So brace yourselves, the pace is about to pick up dramatically. Here are the national standings right now to give you some perspective on what's unfolded to this point. Results coming in. So Omar, tell us what we should expect tonight in the next little while.
Yeah, 78 seats up for grabs in Quebec, and we're really tracking this province closely as well, especially around the Montreal area. Let's bring in Nick Nanos right now and see what the picture is like there. And this map is somewhat deceptive, right, Nick? Because you've got this entire expanse of geography all represented by this light blue, which is the bloc. But this is the picture, essentially, a dissolution.
Absolutely.
We're going to give you the first results we have of Erin O'Toole's Durham riding. So if we can put those up, and you can see, of course, I mean, it would have been a shock if he had not. It's still early, one poll reporting, but Colin DeMello is there at the Tribune.
Jagmeet Singh lost 20 seats and kept his job, but you know, when he said this is not your dad's party, Maxime Bernier defeated in the Beauce.
Let's just actually go to Geneviève Beauchemin, who is not in the Beauce, where Maxime Bernier just lost, but is in Saskatchewan. Jen, reaction, if any, from that crowd?
Not so far, but you know, it won't be much of a surprise to many people in the party itself, because they were saying that it would be a tough fight. You heard Maxime Bernier say the same thing a bit earlier, though.
Secure if Erin O'Toole can't survive. And now that question is a very big question for Erin O'Toole after he's dragged the party. Then people are going to look to people like Pierre Poilievre. Is he a potential leader? And, you know, if Justin Trudeau sees disarray in the Conservative Party, he can sit around for a long time. Remember, he's gone through Stephen Harper, Andrew Scheer, Ronna, you are the interim leader. If Erin O'Toole can't survive, I mean, they got to stop underestimating the Conservatives.
Into account the mail-in ballots and all of this, and we actually have some breaking news to report to you at this hour. The CTV decision desk has gone through it all and is declaring at this moment a Liberal win. Justin Trudeau has a third mandate after a snap election and a 36-day campaign. At this moment, we can't tell you whether that is a minority, the size of that government, but it is a Liberal win. We're going to go right to the Liberal headquarters. Colin, thanks so much, Colin. And we have more breaking news for you. At this moment, a Liberal minority, the CTV decision desk is declaring a Liberal minority government. Evan, they had 155 seats going in. Counts are still unfolding across the country, including we're getting British Columbia results soon. But the reaction, the reality of winning fewer, a smaller minority than you went in with, what does that mean?
Well, we don't know the final count. No. I think Amanda said it right. He gets a check mark for the pandemic, and he's got 142 there, so still below, as you said, 144 leading or elected, so still below. But listen, he will walk, I think one of the consequences, and we'll see where Jagmeet Singh finally we're seeing, and we'll see in BC if his count goes up. If his dance partner continues to be the NDP, then the message will be, okay, your progressive agenda is about to get more progressive.
Hello and welcome to those of you just joining us for our coverage of the 44th Canadian federal election. I'm Donna Friesen in our Decision Canada studio, and with me here is our Ottawa Bureau Chief, Mercedes Stevenson. It is now 10 p.m. Eastern. Polls are closed right across the country. So let's take a quick look at the results so far. The Liberals now leading or elected. You can see those numbers in the bottom of your screen, leading or elected in 72 ridings. The Conservatives leading or elected in 35, the NDP in 11, the BQ in 9, the Green Party in 1. And we should remind people, if they're looking for results from the People's Party of Canada, we will populate that and put that number up there if they turn out to be leading or elected in any riding. So far, we haven't seen that. Now, we have a team, Eric Sorensen in the Results Center. Eric, I know that we have that little box saying 170 seats needed for a majority government, but not a lot of people expecting a majority tonight. It doesn't seem to be shaping up that way. What are we...
Here, just so we can give folks an idea of what we're looking for at this point. Can we change this out to the seats needed to win? There we go. So here they are. The Liberals at 108, the Conservatives at 51. It's too early to make too much of that. Some of these are ridings where the Liberals are ahead by one poll, a handful of votes. So don't make too much of that. But one of the things that happens when these two teams are racing.
All right, let's go to David Aiken in the Results Center. David, are we seeing much yet from the West?
Yes, we are, as a matter of fact. You're not going to throw me off on that one because I thought you might ask me that, Donna. So let me start with BC. This is BC. We don't have a lot of results yet in BC, but we do have some color. Some of it has remained the same. I'm going to zoom in on Vancouver. You're looking at the Lower Mainland right now. And again, as what Eric said, we have some results that don't make sense, like this one. Vancouver East. This is the safest New Democrat riding in the entire country. Jenny Kwan is the NDP MP. She was the NDP MLA. Provincially, she held this area. Vancouver East is going to be NDP, or there'll be no NDP seats in the country. And yet,
they're looking Liberal for the moment. This is Aurora Oak Ridge's Richmond Hill. Leona Alislav, she was a Liberal originally when she won in 2015. She crossed the floor, so she is a Conservative incumbent, but she is trailing Leah Taylor-Roy at the moment.
A couple of key ridings now. Mercedes.
Justin Trudeau, who was the Prime Minister and will continue to be the Prime Minister, has been elected in his riding. No surprise there. Trudeau extremely popular in his riding of Papineau. And there we have Green Party leader, as we were just mentioning, Annamie Paul. She has been defeated. We are formally declaring Marcy Ian elected there, former national broadcaster, of course, very well known. And this is a Liberal stronghold, so not a surprise there. Marcy Ian, by the way, was the incumbent. She won in a recent by-election, and voters sending her back to Ottawa again tonight.
All right, Tracy, thank you. And you can see the numbers now ticking up for the Liberals, and we have some breaking news. Global News is now projecting a Liberal government. That's a Liberal government. We're careful not to say a minority or a majority at this point, just a Liberal government. The vote's still coming in. Information. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll come back to you. We have some breaking news now. Global News is now projecting a Liberal minority government, So there you have it. We are right back where we started. Were the 36 days, were they worth it?
That's a question I think Mr. Trudeau is going to be asked a lot, Donna.
A snap election.
Canadians deserve to choose what the next 17 months, what the next 17 years and beyond will look like.
In the middle of a global pandemic.
I think it's a good time to call it.
There's other priorities, not the least of which is this global pandemic.
A campaign marked by anger.
That's not the solution.
And differing views on how to move forward as a country.
No, I'm not going to back down.
There is a cost to voting for Liberals.
We are running on Canada's recovery plan.
It's election night in Canada, and every riding matters. Every vote matters. And City News is everywhere.
Good evening. The polls are just closing now in British Columbia. That is the final region in the country for that to happen. And we are already seeing results pour in from the other provinces. Counting is well underway, including the millions of ballots that were cast through advance polls. Now, we knew this was going to be a close election, and here is where we stand right now. As you look at some of these numbers, you can see the Liberals are holding fairly strong in Atlantic Canada, which is not unusual. But we're also seeing a bit of momentum from the Conservatives out east as well. Results from other parts of the country, including Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, and Alberta, are still very preliminary at this point, with many polls not even reporting yet. Our City News.
All right, we are back at the big board. Interesting. In the last 15 minutes, we were looking at numbers of polls reporting. Not a whole lot. And then all of a sudden, they are coming in fast and furious. So we're going to bring you some incumbent wins, and we're going to begin in Ontario with Parry Sound Muskoka. We are seeing the incumbent of Scott Aitchison taking this one for the Conservatives. We're going to jump on through to Quebec, where there are two other big wins. The first one happening in Mégantic-l'Érable, and you're seeing an incumbent again, Luc Berthold, taking this one. Massive landslide for the Conservatives here. Again, staying with Quebec, let's bring you over. What do we need to see here?
Well, I think that we'll need to see the feds work with the provinces to implement any sort of funding arrangement.
And we have breaking news, and this is much sooner than expected. The Liberal win is being declared at this hour, at this very minute. A Liberal win in this election. I'm going to send it straight to Zhao Li at Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party headquarters. Zhao Li, what is the mood there right now? Are people even understanding this yet? Has it sunk in?
Oh, it's sunk in. There's been a sort of slow ripple as the
Toronto Center.
I think that whatever's next for Annamie is something that she's going to have to decide. This has been a very challenging time. Not only is this an election that we didn't need to have during a pandemic, but of course, as you mentioned, we've had some real challenges inside the party. What I know is that Annamie is one of the finest leaders I've ever had the privilege of working with, and whatever her decision is, I'm ready for what's next.
We look forward to hearing from her a little later on tonight. Sean Yo, thank you for spending some time with us, sharing your insight. We appreciate it. We're going to send it back now to Cynthia Mulligan.
Thank you. And we have breaking news. City News is declaring election 2021 a Liberal minority. Right now, with the seat projections, Justin Trudeau's party has 155. That's exactly what
how many Liberal seats the government had at dissolution. So again, CityNews is declaring it a Liberal minority, a $600 million plus election for basically the same result.
Jour de campagne, le suspense achève. Nous sommes à 1 heure des premiers résultats. Alors que nous nous attendons à une lutte serrée, quel candidat aura votre vote? Qui formera le prochain gouvernement? Une élection en pleine pandémie.
C'était la mauvaise chose à faire.
Pourquoi nous sommes dans ces élections?
C'était une mauvaise décision.
La colère des anti-vaccins est venue perturber la campagne.
C'est absolument inacceptable
d'avoir recours à la violence.
Il n'y a rien qui va me faire reculer.
Les esprits se sont échauffés, les débats ont parfois dérapé.
Il a commencé par une chaudière d'insultes au visage des Québécois.
M. Trudeau dira n'importe quoi pour gagner.
C'est pas ça du leadership. Further engagement. Vous ne m'accuserez pas d'être pas québécois.
Je vais prendre mon droit de parole, vous prendrez le vôtre quand ce sera le temps.
Mais maintenant, il est temps de savoir ce que vous voulez.
C'est important de voter.
C'est important pour avoir un bon gouvernement.
Vaut mieux voter que juste prendre le tout pour acquis.
On a une opportunité de changer notre pays.
Il faut vraiment aller chercher la personne qu'on pense qui va nous représenter le mieux.
L'économie,
Education,
la santé,
l'environnement,
les armes à feu,
la question autochtone,
la COVID-19.
Quelqu'un qui s'occupe des Québécois.
Il faut que les résultats des urnes reflètent la participation collective.
S'ils votent en faux, ils n'ont rien à dire après.
C'est important pour la démocratie.
c'est notre avenir.
Alors oui, c'est notre avenir, mesdames et messieurs. On ne sait pas pour combien de temps, mais c'est notre avenir qui se joue ce soir. Ici, Patrice Roy et toute l'équipe de l'Information de Radio-Canada. Bienvenue à votre soirée électorale. Et qui dit soirée électorale, Sébastien Bovet, bonsoir, dit d'abord et avant tout des résultats que vous allez nous faire vivre avec la carte.
Des résultats que vous allez avoir apparaître sur cette carte, en effet, qui est un peu pâle, hein? Mais c'est normal. Il n'y a pas de résultats qui sont encore entrés. Il n'y a pas de bureaux de vote qui sont fermés non plus. Alors, d'est en ouest, les bureaux de vote vont fermer et graduellement, cette carte prendra de la couleur. Quelle couleur? Suspense.
De Belleuil-Chambly, dit François Blanchet. Bon, lui, évidemment, c'est réglé. Monsieur Blanchet, on reparlera, puis on aura le temps de faire les bilans de campagne. Mais premiers résultats dans Belleuil-Chambly. Alors, il y a des NPD en avance, Sébastien. Parlez-nous du Grand Montréal.
Oui, alors plongeons dans le Grand Montréal. C'est une zone payante, 41 circonscriptions. Ce qu'on note, c'est sur l'île de Montréal, un des rêves du Bloc québécois. Je ne sais pas s'il est en train de se réaliser. Oups, 0 de différence. On va juste plonger, voir c'est quoi le... Donc après
une partie de la campagne, s'il parviendrait à garder ce pouvoir-là après un déclenchement électoral qui a mal passé. Est-ce qu'il va remporter son pari? Est-ce qu'il va obtenir cette majorité qu'il souhaitait? Ça, c'est encore trop tôt pour le dire. Mais il a échappé belle. Il a déclenché ces élections au moment voulu, alors qu'il a failli perdre le pouvoir. Moi, je pense quand même que malgré tout, là, il sera peut-être affaibli ce soir, M. Trudeau, s'il ne remporte pas de majorité.
Justin Trudeau se dit... À 22h24, Radio-Canada prévoit que le prochain gouvernement sera formé par le Parti libéral. Je répète, à 22h24, nous prévoyons que le prochain gouvernement sera formé par le Parti libéral. Il est encore trop tôt pour savoir s'il sera majoritaire ou minoritaire, mais avec ces chiffres-là, disons que ça, quand on sent là, un peu les chiffres, ça ressemble. Fois, M. Trudeau réélu qui sera à la tête d'un gouvernement, sera-t-il minoritaire ou est-ce qu'il va, à la fin de la soirée, contre toute attente, nous surprendre, qu'il ne bouge pas ou à peu près? À 23h12, ça y est, Radio-Canada prévoit que le prochain gouvernement libéral sera bel et bien minoritaire. 23h12, Radio-Canada prévoit que le prochain gouvernement libéral sera minoritaire. Justin Trudeau, qui n'a donc pas réussi son pari premier, qui était, il faut quand même le rappeler,
19h30. Je souhaite tout de suite la bienvenue aux téléspectateurs de TVA qui se joignent à nous pour cette soirée électorale fédérale 2021. Les résultats. On sait qu'on est en pleine pandémie, une pandémie non seulement au Canada, mais mondiale.
La question de l'identité, elle a toujours été chère aux Québécois. Hein? C'est pas nouveau à cette élection aussi. Évidemment, la question du débat en anglais, elle a... comment je pourrais dire, elle a rendu la chose plus évidente. Et effectivement, nous, ça a permis d'avoir l'oreille de certains Québécois. Et évidemment que ça nous a aidés. Maintenant, restera à voir ce que ça donne. Mais on a fait, comme je dis, on a fait une belle campagne, une campagne d'idées.
C'est également. Et on va aller voir tout de suite Berthier-Masquinongé, un bureau. Ouais. Alors, Tom, vous devez être heureux, là, quand même. Ouais. C'est très fragmentaire. Cassandre Forcier-Martin qui est avec, justement, Mme Hélène Brosseau, Ruth Hélène Brosseau.
Sortante Mme Brière, Enzaf Haïdar du Bloc, le Bloc rêve de ravir Sherbrooke.
Mme Haïdar, il faut le rappeler, la conjointe de M.
Badawi.
Badawi, effectivement. Donc, regardez la position des partis au Québec, là. Les libéraux en ont 14 en avance, le Bloc en a 7, les conservateurs en ont 5, le NPD, Tom, 3 en avance présentement au Québec. Et les Verts, on l'a souligné tantôt, c'est dans Gatineau, surprise jusqu'à maintenant, mais il n'y a pas eu d'autres résultats qui sont sortis là-bas. Du côté de l'Ontario, c'est 26 pour les libéraux, 16 pour les conservateurs, 4 pour le NPD. Jean-Marc, c'était quoi le tableau des conservateurs à la dernière élection en Ontario?
79 libéraux et 30 ans. Oui, on continue de surveiller ce qui se passe dans l'est du Québec, Gaspésie, Île-de-la-Madeleine. L'avance de Diane Leboutillier, la candidate libérale sortante, ministre sortante du Revenu, se confirme. 10 points d'avance. Et si je regarde le pourcentage du vote dépouillé, il y a un quart des votes dépouillés, dont plusieurs votes par anticipation. Donc, peut-être un peu de soupir de soulagement. Trop tôt, beaucoup trop tôt pour crier victoire. Mais néanmoins, Diane Leboutillier est en avance. On continue de surveiller ce qui se passe dans Québec, Chaudière-Appalaches. Les conservateurs sont là. Petite anomalie en Beauce, peu de votes dépouillés, mais on verra. Il serait surprenant que la Beauce demeure rouge libérale tout au long de la soirée. Je veux regarder les résultats. Ils commencent en...
Mario, on parle souvent là, du pourcentage du vote, là, ce qui est intéressant. Vous l'avez dit tantôt. Les conservateurs en ont toujours plus que les libéraux, mais ça ne rapporte pas
quand
en
on
bout de
parle
ligne.
de copier-coller, ce sont les mêmes chiffres qu'il y a 2 ans. Pierre, je voulais parler du Bloc québécois, là, auquel on vient de référer. Julie nous en parlait. C'est quand même décevant, pas mal pour le Bloc. Là. Ouais. Si on se remet dans leur tête, là, leurs attentes, mettons, hier soir, quand ils se sont couchés, ils sont en bas. Quand le Bloc a moins de sièges que les libéraux, on dira ce qu'on voudra. Le sens du Bloc, c'est d'être la voix du Québec. Mais t'es pas la voix du Québec quand tu as moins de sièges que l'autre. Donc, c'est échec pour M. Blanchette de ce point de vue-là.
D'ailleurs, il se l'est fait dire dans le débat.
Et sincèrement, là, il va dire il n'a pas la balance du pouvoir.
Mais là, ce sont les libéraux qui semblent se faufiler.
22h26 précisément. À la lumière des résultats et projections, TVA Nouvelles annonce que le prochain gouvernement sera un gouvernement libéral dirigé par Justin Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau qui n'a pas eu la campagne qu'il imaginait. Les choses ne se sont pas déroulées exactement comme prévu, mais qui conserve l'essentiel, son poste de premier ministre du Canada.
Il faut dire que Erin O'Toole avait été choisi pour livrer l'Ontario au Parti conservateur. Ce soir, il semble avoir échoué. Est-ce que son parti lui donnera une deuxième chance comme à Stephen Harper en 2004? Rien n'est moins sûr.
Hier, Justin Trudeau s'est brûlé les doigts en déclenchant l'élection.
Il n'y a rien d'acquis pour les chefs. Il y a même plusieurs luttes serrées à prévoir partout au pays, même pour des candidats vedettes.
Notre mission ce soir, c'est vous accompagner pour mieux comprendre les enjeux et les tendances qui se dessinent.
Alors, bienvenue à la première soirée électorale de Noovo.
Bienvenue, bonsoir. On est tellement heureux de vous accueillir dans cette soirée électorale, la première de l'histoire de Noovo. On n'est pas dans notre studio habituel, on s'est construit un studio spécialement pour l'occasion. Donc, on est en train de prendre nos aises tranquillement et pour nous accompagner tout au long de la soirée.
Lutte qu'on surveille particulièrement en Mauricie, c'est Trois-Rivières, mais regardez en ce moment, on a seulement une boîte de vote là, d'ouverte jusqu'à présent. On parlait d'une lutte à 3 entre le bloquiste, le libéral, Martin Franca, et l'ex-maire de Trois-Rivières, M. Lévesque. M. Lévesque qui pour commencer ce dépouillement dans cette circonscription-là est en 3e position. Il y a ma collègue Amélie Saint-Yves qui lui a parlé un peu plus tôt. On l'écoute.
Donc, je me trouve avec l'ex-maire de Trois-Rivières, Yves Lévesque, qui tente pour la 2e fois de se tailler une place.
Les militants sont arrivés à minuit 30 et on me dit si tout va bien, si c'est bien planifié, eh bien ce sera à minuit 30. Je vous rappelle que Jagmeet Singh, lui, avait annoncé 1h30, donc ça forcera les autres chefs de parti à se réorganiser. Ça arrive peut-être plus tôt, cette victoire libérale dans la soirée que certains ne l'avaient prévu. Donc, Michel, on reste ici, on attend les militants, on attend les...
En Ontario, on vous disait qu'une des régions à surveiller, puis Philippe, tu m'expliquais pourquoi on est en mesure de dire que c'est un gouvernement libéral à cette heure-ci. C'est vraiment à cause de la situation dans le 905, là, autour du cœur de Toronto.
Exactement. Donc, Toronto est le 905, on le dit. Pourquoi est-ce qu'à 22h20, on peut déclarer déjà un gagnant?
Alors, Noovo prévoit que le prochain gouvernement sera libéral. Le prochain gouvernement sera libéral. Alors, on ne sait pas encore s'il sera minoritaire ou majoritaire, mais Noovo est capable de prévoir à cette heure-ci qu'il sera libéral. Donc, cette 44e élection se solde par... ne se solde pas du tout, parce qu'il reste encore beaucoup de choses à déterminer, mais au moins, Justin Trudeau n'aura pas complètement perdu la face s'il se retrouve avec un gouvernement.
Au revoir.
À 22h38, Noovo prévoit que le prochain gouvernement sera libéral minoritaire. Donc, c'est la donnée qui nous manquait. On vous avait prédit que le gouvernement serait libéral, mais on peut maintenant vous confirmer qu'il sera minoritaire.
Alors, vous voyez, on va se rendre en direct, voir des images en direct donc du rassemblement du Parti libéral du Canada. Vous voyez, des images, c'est tranquille. On le voit dans tous les rassemblements ce soir, à cause, entre autres, des mesures sanitaires, à cause de l'incertitude face à ces résultats. On voit que les différents candidats ne se pointent pas très tôt. Alors, c'est assez tranquille, mais bon, on vous le confirme. On parle donc d'un gouvernement libéral minoritaire.
Alors, c'est confirmé, libéral minoritaire, on supputait...
Good evening and welcome to Your Home, Your Vote election coverage 2021. There's just 30 minutes left to cast a ballot here in Ontario, but you'll notice some results are already coming in, and that's because polls have closed in the Atlantic provinces. The numbers popping up at the bottom of your screen are a running tally of the seats that parties are leading and winning. And once the polls close here at 9:30, we'll add a second ticker that will show the names of the candidates leading and elected across our area. As we await the results, one thing is already crystal clear. This election is unlike any other, with Canadians heading to the polls in the middle of a pandemic. And on that note, we want to let you know that everyone involved in our election coverage tonight is fully vaccinated. Now, in a few hours, we'll find out if the Liberals and Justin Trudeau will continue to lead us through COVID-19. Adam Atkinson is live for us tonight at the Liberal Party headquarters in Montreal. Good evening to you, Adam.
Hello, Nicole. Yeah, it's pretty quiet here at Justin Trudeau's headquarters here in Montreal.
A barometer of what is to come for the rest of the election night. So starting off with Fredericton in New Brunswick, we can see right now that Jenica Atwin, who was the Green Party candidate who crossed lines and went to the Liberals, she is currently the incumbent, but the Conservatives have a slight lead there right now. Going on to the next riding of West Nova in Nova Scotia, it has flipped between Liberal and Conservative since the 60s. In 2019, after the red wave 4 years prior, it went Conservative, and once again we can see it is Conservative tonight. Welcome back to Your Home, Your Vote. We're going to take a look now at the number of seats the main parties held before this election. At dissolution, the Liberals had 155 seats, the Tories 119, the NDP 24, the Bloc 32, and the Green 2, with 5 independents. But the magic number everyone will be paying attention to tonight is 170. That's the number of seats needed for a party to form a majority government in Canada's 338-seat House of Commons. If no party reaches 170, then the party with the most seats could form a minority government, which is what the Liberals did in the last election. But will we see a change tonight? Adam Atkinson joins us again from the Liberal headquarters in Montreal. Adam. The tallies are coming in across the country. Right now, the Liberals have 35.1% of the popular vote, Conservatives with 33.3%, the NDP lower, 16.3%, the Bloc Québécois with 7.2%. And as you can see tonight, the PPC surpassing the Green with 4.9%, the Greens with 2.3%. The Liberals is in the lead. Well, this just in from the CHCH decision desk. We're making a call. It is a Liberal government. At this time, it's too early to say whether it will be a Liberal minority or majority, but once again, it will be a Liberal government for 2021. With more on this, we're going right away to Montreal to the Liberal headquarters with Adam Atkinson, who joins us live. Adam, have they heard the news there? How are they feeling tonight?
Yeah, they've heard the news. It's still surprisingly quiet here, but the news is just trickling through this room right now.
And the CHCH desk is making another call. The CHCH decision desk is declaring a Liberal minority government. And with more on this, let's get to our Queen's Park producer, Randy Rath, who joins us again. Randy, does a Liberal minority, now that we know that, federally work in Premier Doug Ford's favor when it comes to the election provincially next year?
Good evening. It is election night. Welcome to Your Island Vote 2021. Thanks so much for being here for our live coverage. I'm Stacey Ross.
And I'm Joe Perkins. And right out of the gates, we can tell you that Justin Trudeau's big election gamble has paid off. The Liberals will form the next government. We aren't ready quite yet to declare whether this will be a minority or a majority, but results are coming in fast right now, and we will get you that decision as soon as we're ready to call it.
Now, the polls closed here in BC 7 p.m., about half an hour after they closed in Ontario and Quebec. Let's take a look at some of those national numbers. Of course, 338 seats up for grabs tonight, 170 needed for a majority government. Still in the very early stages in many ridings, and here is a look at those leading.
People's spirits here seem pretty high. Elizabeth May, I think last I checked, one poll reporting leading in her riding. No surprise there. She had a sizable win in the last election with nearly 50% of the vote, so they're hoping to continue that momentum and continue that support this time around.
I mean, we spent $600 million and the last month plus in this campaign, and really not too much has changed, projecting a Liberal minority government. And I'm wondering if we can take a look at the national boards one more time at this point and see how things are playing out. There we currently have leading and elected 156 for the Liberals. Of course, 170 seats needed for a majority government. We see the Conservatives at 122, the Bloc 29, 28 for Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, and leading or elected the 2 Green Party members there.
What we've seen tonight is that millions of Canadians have chosen a progressive plan. Some have talked about division, but that's not what I see. That's not what I've seen these past weeks across the country. I see Canadians standing together, together in your determination to end this pandemic, together for real climate action, for $10 a day childcare, for homes that are in reach for middle-class families.
There it is. Welcome to the post-vote party after the vote here on Global BC. Chris Galis, Sophie Louis, of course. Special coverage of what we just witnessed in the federal election from a uniquely BC perspective. And a lot of people thinking when they see the numbers, what in the world would we just accomplish here over the last 36 days of this campaign? Because we are basically where we started. Thanks for watching, Donna Friesen and the Decision Canada team. You know that we're looking at a Liberal minority tonight.
Yeah, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It does look a lot like 2019, but those mail-in ballots could make the difference. Let's bring in our Richard Zussman. He's part of our team coverage tonight. He's been keeping a close eye on all the ridings in across the country and some pretty surprising results, but not necessarily, Richard, if you look back at the changing fortunes we saw last provincial election.
Yeah, so you mentioned the provincial election. It was a year ago tomorrow that provincial election was called, but we're talking tonight about the federal election, and here is the electoral map. You mentioned there have been some changes, so let's have a closer look in Metro Vancouver. So if you look back at 2019, you see a lot of conservative blue in Metro Vancouver. Well, that is all gone from the map. And I want to start here in Richmond. This is one of the big stories. These ridings flipped in the provincial election. They seemingly have done it again here. This one, not done yet. You can see there are still 5,100 mail-in ballots, but this would be the upset of the night. Wilson Miao is up over Alice Wong. Wong was first elected in 2006, and she's trailing by 570 votes. I want to show you another seat in Richmond as well, Steveston, Richmond East. And this one is done. Parn Baines has been elected. He worked in the Christy Clark government. He is now heading to Ottawa as an MP, winning by more than 3,000 votes. He has beat Kenny Chiu. This was a Liberal seat in 2015, lost it in 2019, have won it back tonight. That is a big flip.
I know.
The pandemic election, the minority Liberals say it's about the rights of Canadians. The opposition calling this a power grab.
Voters will make the final call, and with record numbers at advance polls, they seem eager to have their say. If you haven't voted yet, there is still time. Polls in the GTA open until 9:30.
Now, with just 36 days, this has been the shortest campaign allowed, and it's revealed a country looking to the future beyond COVID-19. Nationally, the Conservatives and Liberals have been deadlocked throughout this campaign, and the NDP is poised once again to play a pivotal role.
Tonight is not just about the three main parties, though. The Green Party, the Bloc Québécois, and the People's Party of Canada are all positioned to make their mark on this election.
Well, take a look at this beautiful live shot from Chopper 24 this evening. A gorgeous late summer night in our city will certainly help write the story of Canada's 44th general election. The vote-rich GTA is critical if you want to win tonight.
It is election night in Canada, and from 299 Queen Street West, this is Your Vote 2021, CB24's special election coverage. Hello, I'm Stephanie Smythe.
And I'm Nick Dixon. Thanks for being here this evening. Polls in Newfoundland and Labrador have just closed, and we're going to start seeing results from all of Atlantic Canada in the next hour or so. But in a race that has been tight from the start, we may not have a clear result this evening until British Columbia has finished voting 3 hours from now, 10 p.m. our time. Now, all indicators are pointing to another minority government as the result this evening. Results, of course, though, in the 416 and 905, they are key. And we want to remind all voters, if you haven't already, you have until 9:30 this evening to vote.
The Liberal leader voted first thing. Justin
Trudeau. But anyway, we do have some results. So let's bring that up, starting on Hamilton Mountain.
The
this
NDP,
is an open riding.
Yeah, it's open, but it was NDP. So you can see right now the Liberal Lisa Hefner is in the lead. Just 3 polls reporting. So early look at that riding.
Malcolm Allen, of course, represented the New Democrats in Parliament for about 7 or 8 years as well. Let's move on to Newmarket right now. The Newmarket Aurora riding here. And we'll give you a sense of the result there. And there you have it. You can see Tony Van Bynen, the Liberal incumbent, is out in the lead again, just with 2 polls in. Slim lead over Harold Kim. But again, this is very early in the Liberal column for Scarborough.
Another elected, and this is another cabinet minister, Omar Alghabra, the transport minister. So he is going back to Ottawa
for the Liberals. Ruby, but let's talk about Ontario, because that's, of course, where we're sitting right now. We're trying to focus on 416 and 905, and we're seeing significant gains at this point for the Liberals. That must make you feel good, but I wonder if there isn't a majority.
And at this point, we'll just have to wait and see and keep an eye on the West as well.
Okay, so we have some breaking news right now.
And CP24 declares a Liberal win.
Okay, so it's Liberal win. That's not minority. That's not majority. That's just CP24 is declaring that Justin Trudeau will be forming government at the end of the night or the end of whenever these votes are all counted. We don't exactly know when this is going to end, but the people crunching the numbers, we talked to Anton Kashani earlier in their program, and he talked about having some of the smartest people in Canada kind of behind the scenes looking at this. So again, declaration here that a Liberal win tonight.
Big map and the change that we're seeing tonight or not.
Or not, Steph. That is the key here. Early in the voting, early in the counting of the votes here, but you can see Quebec. We wanted to talk about Quebec with our political analyst, Jim Warren here. The Bloc Québécois in this light blue, the ones that have been declared a little bit brighter, but I mean, not a lot of change here. What are your thoughts on what's happening in Quebec tonight, Jim?
Well, no one's going to be happy, right? So the Liberals were hoping the path to the majority was for them to take a big chunk of these bloc votes away, which they didn't and weren't able to do. The Conservatives were not able to make the inroads that they thought they could do by having a French-speaking Prime Minister candidate. Andrew Scheer was not very good at that. And finally, Jagmeet Singh cannot be happy, right? The way the path for NDP to be the official party status, Jack Layton got them through Quebec. Again, he's not made those inroads today. It's the status quo to the most part.
But we haven't heard from her just yet, so we haven't called that race either. That's important to know as well. All right, more breaking news here on Your Vote 2021.
And CP24 is declaring a Liberal minority government. Yes, a Liberal minority government. So, as we might have heard from a certain politician the other day who was campaigning the $610 million election, Janet Ecker, for a no-change election.
Wasn't that fun? Let's do it again. What a waste. I mean, it's actually, I had an email from someone earlier today who's a pediatrician who basically said, you know what I could have done with $600 million in my hospital.
Good evening, I'm Melissa Ridgen.
And I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to our Election 2021 APTN National News Election Night Special.
For the next 2 hours, we will be bringing you live election results from across the country, and we will have plenty of analysis from our guests.
Some of those guests joining us here in...
Well, let's start off in the east with some early poll results. Bernadette Jordan, the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans, she's lost her seat. That's in South Shore, St. Margaret. Let's go there. Take a look. She has lost to Rick Perkins, the Conservative candidate there. So that's the riding. Violent clashes between the DFO, non-Indigenous fishers, and Mi'kmaq exercising their right to treaty fish. Let's go to Sydney, Victoria. We've got Jaime Baptiste has held on to his seat there, followed by Conservative Eddie Orell. Jeff Ward was the Mi'kmaq candidate for the NDP. He came in third, as you can see, too. Let's take a zip over to Labrador.
Hello, I'm Peter Van Dusen, and welcome to CPAC's live election night coverage. After 36 days of campaigning during a fourth wave of COVID-19, after the debates, the platforms, the promises, yes, the protests and the public opinion polls, it is now all over except for the last-minute push for voters still happening in some parts of the country, and of course, the counting. And the counting, that's the part that could go on for some time, even beyond tonight, to add up all those mail-in ballots. So in a race that appears too close to call, we could be in for a long, long night. The polls have now closed in Newfoundland and Labrador. They'll close in 30 minutes in the rest of Canada, in Atlantic Canada rather, at 9:30 Eastern Time in Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and Nunavut in the Northwest Territories, and then finally at 10 p.m. Eastern Time in British Columbia and Yukon. Now, it won't be long before we start seeing the first results from Newfoundland and Labrador. So let me take a moment here to explain what you will see on your screen throughout our coverage tonight. Party logos. They'll be there, and beside the logos, you'll see a running tally of ridings where each party's candidates are leading or elected as the night goes on. And remember, at dissolution, we had a minority government in Ottawa, and the polls suggest we could be headed that way again. The number of seats for any party to obtain a majority, keep this number in mind, is 170. That's of the 338 seats in the House of Commons. Also at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a ticker with the results in individual ridings across the country. The incumbent going into the election will be identified with an asterisk, and when a candidate has been elected, you'll see a check mark beside the name. Our focus this evening will be on those key ridings in each region or province that have been targeted by the parties and will likely decide who wins the election. Those are the 50-plus ridings or so, mostly in Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia, that are really key to who comes out on top tonight. So translation, and that's what we do here. So let's move on and let's talk about some of the races we're seeing in Atlantic Canada. I want to bring you up to date and drill down on some of these numbers. Let's give you a sense of what is happening now. This is 32 seats of 32 seats, and here's the lay of the land now in Atlantic Canada. So Liberals are leading or elected, and we're going to show you some of the electeds here, and you can see some of them showing up on the gas gauge or the ticker on the bottom of your screen. But look at the grid graph. So they're leading and elected in 3, which is a decline to this point, 23, a decline of 4. The Conservatives are leading or elected in 8, which is an increase to this point of 4 seats in Atlantic Canada, and the Democrats leading or elected in 1, and that's St. John's East that we've been keeping an eye on. But let's run through some of the ridings in detail here and give you an idea of what's been changing as we look first at popular support. So this shows you the level of popular support for each party in Atlantic Canada and what's changed since the last election in 2019. So you see the Liberals are up a little over 3 points from 2019. So their voter support right now is up in Atlantic Canada, but it's a bigger jump for the Conservatives, who are at 35+% voter support in Atlantic Canada, and that's almost 7% increase. The Democrats down slightly, less than we saw earlier, down by less than a percentage point. The People's Party of Canada are up 2+ points from what they were in 2019, and as we talked about earlier, a big drop for the Green Party in Atlantic Canada. Let's run through some of the let's run through these ridings now to show you where the leading and elects is. Here's the tight races first. We'll show you that. Interesting here, a longtime Liberal MP in central Newfoundland, the Gander area, Scott Sims, is trailing right now, and that's we have a substantial number of polls now, over half the polls reporting, and he is trailing the Conservative candidate in the riding of Coast of Bays, Central Notre Dame. We'll continue to watch that riding closely. Cumberland Colchester, the Conservative candidate there, Stephen Ellis, is leading the Liberal incumbent, Lenore Zen. That's still relatively early, 34 of 218 polls, but we'll keep a close eye on that race as well. We should note the NDP candidate, Daniel Osborne, is still on the ballot, but he's not a candidate there. But you see he got 447 votes. He was dropped by the campaign for some of the past comments he made in social media. All right, let's look to the next riding now, and that'll take us to South Shore St. Margaret's. And this is the incumbent Liberal cabinet minister, Bernadette Jordan. She is trailing right now with 45 of 270 polls in this riding. This gives you an idea of where the Conservatives look to be making gains early on at least, and the candidate Rick Perkins here is leading the Liberal incumbent. That That gives you, we also have the Canadian Press, which is our supplier of results, as now, as you can see on your screen, declaring it will be a Liberal government as well. And still the issue is what form of Liberal government, and that's typically what happens unless the results early on are overwhelming, is it's a two-step process. Somebody gets declared the winner of government, and then the description of that government typically comes next. So that's the next thing we'll wait to see. And it'll become clear at some point in the night, Dave Coletto, that it's not going to be a majority. At some point when most of the results are in, it'll be clear that it's going to be a minority. Right. That's the next thing we're watching for, right?
Right, and I don't think it will be too much longer till we can...
It'll be interesting to see how those shake up.
And did you say that it was by less than 100 votes?
It was fewer than 100 votes, yep. It was the closest riding in the country.
Okay, here we go. The CP has declared a Liberal minority this election. That's what it was looking like a little while ago. And, you know, the final numbers are obviously sort of still quite far off. And we won't know, but you said it Groundhog Day, and it would not be a surprise. And I think it will anger a lot of people, actually, to see a repeat of an election 2 years ago or less than 2 years ago. You know, when there are so many people resentful of the election.
Well, I think there's a couple of things that are important, particularly from a BC context. What's going to happen to Paul Manley? Is he actually going to lose? If so, that leaves one MP now from British Columbia, Elizabeth May in Saanich.